Hey everyone, and welcome to the All It Takes is a Goal podcast, the best place in the entire world, including all of Canada, to learn how to build new thoughts, new actions, and new results. I'm your host, Jon Acuff, and today we're finishing a two-part series, limited edition really, a two-part limited edition series called The 24 Ingredients of a Wildly Successful Goal. Before we jump into the content, let's hear a quick word from the sponsor of today's episode. Quick question. What if you could guarantee the success of your goals? No, seriously. The book you want to write? Guaranteed. The business you want to start? Guaranteed. The exercise plan you want to stick with? Guaranteed. What if no goal was off limits? It's possible with the Guaranteed Goals community. The Guaranteed Goals community is my first ever membership program where you'll find the courage, connection, and most importantly, the community you need to win all your goals. Ever since I started hosting online challenges with tens of thousands of people from around the world, the number one request people sent me was for a private, non-Facebook community where we can all work on our goals together. That's why I created the Guaranteed Goals community on a user-friendly platform where you won't be overwhelmed with endless dance videos, silly reels, and dog memes. Inside this community, in addition to learning my fail-proof formula for achieving goals, you'll get access to a massive course library, check-ins with my team for accountability, the chance to win awesome prizes, 12 VIP Q&A sessions with me, the ability to team up with other members who are working on similar goals as you, and so much more. A year from now, I want you to be thankful for the way you invested in yourself and your goals today. Join me at acuff.me/goals. That's acuff.me/goals. I'll see you there. All right, let's jump into the content. Goals are not mysterious. They're really not. There's not a ton of mystery about what it takes to accomplish a goal. A successful goal requires roughly the same 24 ingredients every time. Whether you've got a financial goal, a health goal, a career goal, whether you want to learn how to play drums. That was one of the goals somebody in one of my challenges was chasing. They wanted to learn how to play drums. They've always loved the drums. They thought as a kid it would be so cool to play the drums. And then as an adult, they said, yeah, I get to choose to play the drums. That's one of the things I don't like when people say things like, don't grow up, it's a trap. It's not a trap. It's amazing. Anyone who tells you that adulthood is not fun or is boring or is a trap is just doing adulthood the wrong way. Being an adult can be amazing. It is the best. Never listen to somebody who says, don't grow up, it's a trap. That is the mopiest, dumbest advice. Okay, so that was just a bonus point. Side note. But any goal you want to accomplish requires roughly the same 24 ingredients. What are they? Well, I'm so glad you asked. So we're going to talk about ingredients 13 through 24 today, which means last week, in last week's episode, we covered the first 12. The first 12. We just went through 1 through 12. These are all separate. These are all individual. So if you start the very first time you've ever listened to the podcast as today's episode, you won't be like, wait, I don't understand. I missed point number 8. They're not in an order. They're not ranked. You don't have to hear the first episode to appreciate this one. I think you should go back and listen to that episode and every other episode, obviously, but I'm very biased when it comes to this podcast. But today I'm going to cover 13 through 24. And as I said last week, think about it like goal bingo. If you've got the majority of these ingredients for your goal, you're going to win. The goal is going to work out. You're going to be successful. So as you're listening to this, keep kind of a mental checklist as I'm sharing, okay, and then number 14, number 18, number 22, be listening with the idea of, oh yeah, I am doing that. Or, oh, that's an interesting point. I'm not doing that right now. Think about how many of the 12 you're currently living in your own life. The 12 I share today. All right, cool. If you want to be wildly successful at a goal, these are the ingredients you need. This is number 13. You need fun. You have to have fun with your goal. You can't take yourself too seriously because if you do, you'll give up on the goal way before it has time to gain momentum. We actually did a whole study around the word fun. There's a PhD that I talk about a lot on this podcast named Mike Peasley. He's a professor here in Nashville where I live. He's over in Murfreesboro. And he and I did a study with nearly 900 people over a 6 months period to figure out, does fun matter to a goal? It's actually one of the keynotes I do. It's an element of a keynote. It's kind of one of the three main points I share about performance with companies, because fun matters. Fun actually makes you more successful, and it certainly raises your satisfaction. Those are the two things you look for when you're looking at a goal principle, a leadership principle, a productivity principle. You're looking for satisfaction level. Did I enjoy doing this? And you're looking for performance level. Did my performance actually get better? I always tell people you have to raise both. And here's why. Let's say something you hear on this podcast, or a book you read, or you do a challenge with me, whatever. Let's say it helps your satisfaction. Like you walk away and you're like, that was fun. I had such a good time. I laughed a lot. And it was just so enjoyable. But your performance plummets. Do you know what happens? You end up smiling all the way to last place. You end up being like, this is amazing. I'm failing, but it feels so good. I don't want that for you. That's not the point of this. Let's say on the flip, I help you with your performance. Like your performance goes through the roof. You crush, you kill, you do whatever adjective or adverb or verb you like you do it. But your satisfaction goes down. Do you know what happens? You end up being every rich, miserable person you've ever met. Have you ever met somebody who's really successful and really unhappy? And you think, how is that possible? Like, how can somebody so successful be so miserable? Well, the reason it happened was they crushed the second element. They really did well at performance, but they never leaned into the satisfaction. They never put focus on that. Or, and I see this a lot, their idea was, okay, I'm going to be miserable for like 65 years. I'm going to just hate my job, don't enjoy my life. I'm going to crush. I'm going to be all performance. But then when I retire at like 65 and move to 30A in Florida, then I'll be happy. Like then it'll all change. And I want to say like, ooh, if that's your plan, I have some terrible, you're putting a tremendous amount of pressure on a golf cart. Like if your plan is to practice misery for 6.5 decades and then you think more golf at 65 is going to radically change. Like, no, you got to raise both factors. And one of the ways to raise both factors, that is satisfaction and performance, is fun. So you got to make sure your goal is fun. That's an important ingredient. Ingredient number 14 is accountability. Accountability. You've got to have accountability. Now, this is not the same thing as community. That's what's interesting about accountability. Do you want to know the difference? Okay. Here's an easy way to know the difference. Try to hold someone accountable you're in community with who hasn't asked for it. Let me say that again. Like try to hold a friend you're in community with, or a neighbor or a coworker. You're in community with them, but they haven't asked you to hold them accountable. Let me know how that goes. Just call up, somebody from your neighborhood and share some issues with them that you're seeing that are getting in the way of how they're running their business. And let me know if that phone call goes well. It won't go well. You have community with everyone. You have accountability with a few people. Like you don't have accountability with everyone you have community with. Accountability is always a much smaller circle. There are hundreds of people, for instance, in the Guaranteed Goals community. I started an online community where for an entire year we're working on goals together. I'm in community with them. It's right there in the name, but only a handful of them are providing specific accountability for me. Same with my friends. I have 100 friends probably. I haven't counted. Let's say I have 100 friends that I'm in community with, but only about 4 to 6 at any given moment are holding me accountable. You're not going to be accountable with everybody. And the joke I sometimes do is I'll say, the best time to give somebody advice, the best time to hold them accountable is when they've asked you, hey, will you give me some advice? And the worst time is every other time. So accountability is different from community. You need both. You need a community of people that are encouraging you, that are cheering you along. Community can be really valuable because somebody in the group might have done what you're trying to do and you can learn from them. When I put together my Guaranteed Goals community, I reached out to my friend Corinne Crabtree. She's brilliant. She does this weight loss community online. There's more than 14,000 people in it. She's so much further ahead than I am. As far as serving a community in that way. So I reached out to her and I asked her a bunch of questions so that I could learn from her because we're in community. But she doesn't hold me accountable. Like Corinne doesn't text me and go, hey, I noticed you haven't worked out in 3 days. Like, what's the deal? Or, hey, I noticed that you kind of cut some corners on that last project. What's the deal? Accountability is different from community. You need both, but you just need to know they're two different ingredients. And again, it's usually a smaller segment of the people you're in community with. You got to have accountability. Ingredient number 15, resilience. Resilience, you need resilience. I like to think about resilience as the ability to start over when it didn't go the way you thought it would the first time. Like, it's really the ability to give yourself permission to start over when it didn't meet your expectations, when your performance wasn't what you wanted it to be. You wouldn't need resilience if it was working. Like, you really wouldn't. You wouldn't need resilience if things were going well. You only really need resilience when things are challenging, when you've dropped the ball, when you didn't meet the goal, when you had a tough problem. And one of the things I tell people, because I actually talk about this in corporate client speeches, is resilience is easier when it's tied to purpose. And one of the ways I say it is like, the bigger your purpose, the bigger your resilience. And so often if you're having a hard time being resilient, it sometimes means you've been disconnected from your desire or divorced from your desire. You've forgotten the mission. You've forgotten the goal. One of the ingredients we talked about in the first 12 was this idea of vision, where you're headed to, why you're doing this thing you're doing, what you want to accomplish, the dream you're working on, if you will. Sometimes in the middle of a goal, we lose sight of that. We haven't touched that in a while. We haven't refreshed our memory about this thing we're working on. So when we get knocked down, it's harder to get back up because we're disconnected from our purpose. So purpose and resilience, in my mind, are very closely related. And this is going to help you resilience when you hit speed bumps, when you hit curveballs, when there are challenges you don't see coming. Resilience is the ability to get back up, to give yourself the permission to try again when it doesn't go the way you wanted it to go. Ingredient number 16 is bravery. You've got to be brave. If you want to really accomplish a goal, if you want to be successful at a goal, it requires bravery. And here's why. Fear never bothers you if you're committed to a boring life. Fear never bothers you if you're committed to a boring life. Fear never bothers you if you're committed to an average life. Fear never bothers you if you go with the flow. It only gets loud when you dare to change your life. Fear only really gets loud when you dare to be something more than you are today, tomorrow. When you say, okay, I think I'm capable of something more. I think I can do that. I think I can get outside of my comfort zone. I think I can tap into more of my potential. That's when fear wakes up. When you're in the comfort zone, when you're stuck, when you're not trying, when you feel frozen, when you feel paralyzed, whatever, fear won't waste a lot of energy on you. It's only when you go, wait a second, I think I can sail to deeper seas. I think there's land over the horizon. I don't think the world ends and drops off like a flat earth. I think there's more out there. Then when you dare to sail, then when you dare to prepare your boat, that's when fear kind of stirs up. That's when it gets a little bit louder. And in those moments, you need bravery. So bravery is an important element, an important ingredient to any successful goal. Number 17, 17th ingredient you need is mindset. You have to have a deliberate, intentional, healthy, helpful mindset. I wrote a whole book about this called Soundtracks. I spent years researching this. And sometimes people ask me, well, why do you write books? Why do you pick a certain topic? And I did a whole episode about how I come up with the ideas that I'm willing to spend years on. But the summary of it is there's three things I look for. I look for a deep personal connection. I've got to be personally connected to the content or I won't be excited about it. And you'll be able to tell in about 12 seconds. I think modern audiences, whether it's on a podcast or on stage, anywhere, can instantly go, oh, they don't even care about this thing. This thing doesn't even matter to them. And so first I have to be passionately connected to it. It has to be a question I'm willing to chase down an answer to for years. And then I'm going to talk about it for 10 years. I mean, the book Finish I wrote, I'm still talking about that. There's still clients that are like, hey, will you come talk to us about finishing goals? That book came out like 8 years ago and I'm still talking about it. So one is personal connection. The second thing is there a need? Do people actually need it? Am I hearing about it from neighbors? Are people asking about it in podcast reviews? Are people in challenges asking about it? Are clients and corporations and audiences asking about it? And the third is there a spot for me in the marketplace? Can I find a way to stand out if I go down this path. And so with overthinking, I had all of those three things. Mindset, I had all of those three things. I'm an overthinker. I recognized that when I changed my mindset, it changed my ability to actually get what I wanted to get done. So I had a personal connection. I've always been an overthinker, and I wanted to get better at my mindset. Second, Mike, who I just mentioned, the PhD, we asked 10,000 people if they struggle with overthinking, and 99.5% of people said yes. So there was a huge need. And then I went into the marketplace, and I was surprised how many resources would say things like, just stop it, stop thinking, just turn off your mind, stop it, stop it, stop it. And I thought, well, that's not helpful advice because it's not possible. You're designed to think. You're built to think. Why would we ever turn off this amazing thinking machine we have? Wouldn't it make more sense to just think the thoughts we want, not the thoughts that hold us back? What if we could choose our thoughts? What if we could build a mindset? So that's where the book Soundtracks came from, is I had those three elements. And ultimately what I learned about mindset as it applies to goals is something really, really simple, but really, really true. Your thoughts turn into your actions turn into your results. Great thoughts turn into great actions turn into great results. All too often, we overfocus on the results we want, and we never change the thoughts that are driving the entire experience, and so we never get the results. And so your mindset matters. If you really want to accomplish something big, something new, something significant in your life, a goal that really matters to you, your mindset is an important ingredient for the success of that goal. Number 18 ingredient. This is very specific. It's very data driven, but one of the most important ingredients when it comes to a successful goal, I really hate that word, successful. Boy, that was tough. It's a challenging word. Nobody ever sees the word successful and goes, oh, that's a tough word to say. It's not a tough word to say. One of the most important ingredients are hours, the hours you have. None of the other ingredients on this list, none of the other 23 ingredients matter if you don't have hours to throw at your goal. If you don't have the time to actually do the thing you want to do or need to do, the rest of this list doesn't matter because you can't get to it. I mean, you can have the greatest workout plan. You could have a vision. You could be so brave. You could have a great mindset, whatever. But if you don't have time to go to the gym, none of it matters. None of it matters. You could have the greatest business plan. You could know, how to sell to clients and how to scale and how to get funding and all the things. Like, you could have the most immaculate business plan, but if you don't have hours to throw at it, it doesn't matter. And so a big part of having a successful goal is finding the time to actually work on it, rescuing some hours so that you can apply those hours to that goal. Your ability to move other things out of the way that don't matter, to find time, to be deliberate about applying time to this goal is one of the greatest signs that you're on the right path. I mean, if somebody tells me, John, I want to be a writer. I want to be a writer. I sometimes go, all right, cool. Do you write before work? Do you write after work? Do you write on your lunch break? Do you write on the weekends? Do you write at night? Do you write early in the morning? And if they go, no, I don't right now, but I'm gonna quit my job so I can be a full-time writer. I always think, no, go rescue some time. Go find half an hour in your day. Just rescue half an hour of your time. Rescue 15 minutes of your time. Figure out where are some small sections of my life that I can reclaim, that I can redeem, that I can rescue to throw some hours at my goal. That's an important ingredient is, do you have the hours to apply to it? Number 19 ingredient is focus. Focus. This is the ability, I believe focus is the ability to focus on something or to work on something for a sustained period of time. Focus is the ability to work on something for a sustained period of time. And this is challenging right now because we live in a very distracted culture. We do. I don't know if I'd say it's the most distracted culture that's ever lived. Like, that feels dramatic, but the Middle Ages were probably pretty distracting. The whole like Black Plague and like dying very early, and like people were had catapults. I think there were just so many catapult situations that we don't know about, that like you could just be walking along and you'd have to be like, oh man, I hope I don't get hit by a catapult today. That's probably pretty distracting. I don't know. I wasn't alive then. But we live in a very distracting culture, a very distracting society. One of the things I often say is Netflix doesn't want you to write a book. Hulu doesn't want you to get in shape. Amazon Prime, like, wants you to watch their content, and they should. They're amazing businesses, but their business is built off of your time. And so it's hard to focus because they're very good at saying, hey, you should look at this instead. You should do this instead. And so focus, your ability to focus going forward will radically separate you from other people. It really will. I saw a stat from Nielsen. Nielsen does the ratings for television. And the stat was the average American watches 34 hours of TV a week. A week. 34 hours of TV a week. That's almost a full-time 40-hour-week job. It also said the average American watches the equivalent of 2 months of television a year. 2 months. So do you know, if you only watched 1 month a year, you would crush. You would do so well. And that comes down to your ability to focus. So your ability to focus on goals for a sustained period of time is game-changing. It's game-changing. And it's not easy to me. I'm a very distracted person. I am very shiny object, want to do 52 things at one time, only sit down for 7 minutes at a time. I've really had to work on this over the years. But what I learned is if I want to write books, if I want to write good books, I have to be able to focus often for a year or two on a single project and keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back and keep refining and keep refining and keep refining. Not easy for me, but focus is an important ingredient of a successful goal. Number 20, related to focus, if they feel like cousins, if you will, this cousin ingredients is patience. It's patience. And here's an example of why you need patience. Do you know how long your goal is going to take to accomplish? Do you know how long it'll take to accomplish? I do. I could tell you right now how long it'll take to accomplish. Are you ready? Longer than you think. That is how long it'll take you to accomplish your goal. Longer than you think. Definitely longer than you want. I've never met a single successful person who said, yeah, the whole thing happened so much faster than we thought. It was actually really easy. It was almost like too fast. We were like, whoa, massive success. What? You are going to be in the coal mine for longer than you want. You're going to have to stay focused. You're going to have to be patient. And patience is interesting because sometimes patience is the willingness to do it again when the results weren't what you wanted. So you said, okay, this should only take like 6 months. I'm going to do this thing. It'll take 6 months. And you get to the end of the 6 months and the results aren't there yet. Like the progress isn't there yet. And it's going to be so easy in that moment to go, well, it's not working. I give up. Or you have patience and go, the results are going to come. Like if I keep working this way, if I'm keep being deliberate, I'm checking the boxes, I'm getting wise counsel, I'm doing all the things I know to do, the results will come. The results will come. That's patience. Patience isn't quietly waiting and not doing anything. Often patience is doing the thing again and again and again and again and being patient enough for the results to come at the speed they're going to come, to say they're going to come. For instance, I wrote down, I found this recently, in 2009, which is 14 years ago, I found this note recently that I wrote myself. And I said, I wonder if my first book, SCL, could sell 100,000 copies. I wrote that down in 2009, which was impossible at the time. It was my first book. The average book sells like 500 to 1,000 copies or something super low like that. So it was an impossible goal. It was an impossible goal. But I wrote it down, and then I was patient. And then I was patient. And then I was patient. And then I looked up 14 years later, and it had sold over 180,000 copies, which is crazy to me. 180,000 copies. And there were a million patient moments like that. One that I remember, I was at this event called Catalyst West Coast, which is out in Orange County, like LA area, like Newport, just gorgeous. And I was at this event, and I wasn't even speaking at the event. I was just there. I don't even think I had a breakout. I definitely wasn't on main stage. And I had a bunch of my books, a bunch of copies of my books, and they put me on this little substage outside at like 7 a.m. So people were lined up to get into the arena, and I was like, I had a mic and a box of books, and I was like hawking the books, going like, hey, over here. And like no one, there were probably 4 people that came over. And I was like, hey, huge crowd. I know you're trying to get a seat, but I'll give you one of my books. I was just giving the books out for free. I wasn't even selling them. And there were a million moments like that book signing lines where nobody would show up and you just stand there and try not to feel like a complete loser. Moments where it didn't work and 100,000 felt like the craziest, biggest goal. Just patience. And then you look up and it's been 14 years and you go, oh, wait a second. I did that goal. Like the results came. They just came at their own pace, not mine. That's the frustrating thing about results. They come at their own pace, not your own, which requires patience. Number 21, speaking of words that start with P, you need planning. Here's how I differentiate planning from vision. Vision is long-term, planning is weekly. I think about planning on a much smaller scale than long-term. Like I have an annual plan. I have a rough sense. But the reality, if we're being honest, an annual plan, a 2-year plan, a 5-year plan is roughly fiction. Like it is. It's rough. Imagine this. Imagine all the people like in 2019 that had big, crazy annual plans for 2020. Let's just take the makeup industry because I saw some stats about the makeup industry. Makeup sales in 2020, 2021 were crazy. They were all over the place because like lipstick was down like 25% and eye makeup was up like 200%. Why? Because when you wear a mask, nobody can see your mouth, but everybody can see your eyes. There wasn't a single person at Revlon or Maybelline or MAC in 2019 that was like, hey guys, I've run the numbers. I've got a real sense that 16 months from now, 18 months from now, our mouth department is just going to plummet. But the eyeball division, our eyeball team is going to kill it. No, they couldn't see that coming because nobody could have seen the pandemic coming. And just because there's not a pandemic every year, there's always events that significantly change your year. So a year plan, a 2-year plan, a 3-year plan, I think they can be great. I think knowing where you're headed, I work with companies that will say, okay, we're at 100 million and we're headed toward $500 million. And here's the steps that are going to get us there in the next 10 years. I think that's great, but it's a rough plan. It's not a specific step by step. Planning though, for me breaks down to weekly. It's more monthly. It's things that I can actually say, okay, here's what we're doing this month. Here's what we're doing this week. That's different from vision. So planning is specific steps that I'm taking on a weekly, daily, at the most monthly basis. You need planning. Number 22, ingredient that you need self-awareness. Here's what I'd say. You can't accomplish big goals without self-awareness. If you're not self-aware, you can't have real relationships. You can't succeed at work. You can't stay in shape. You can't accomplish any other goal that matters in life. How could you? Without self-awareness, you don't have an accurate picture of reality. Think about it this way. The leader who thinks they're passionate is shocked to get fired one day for anger issues. The dad in his 50s is insulted when his doctor warns him that he's dangerously overweight. The young woman in her late 20s or young man in his late 20s is confused why he or she keeps attracting losers to date. Never once wondering, am I the one that needs to change first? Self-awareness is like when you hand a pair of full spectrum glasses to someone who's been colorblind their entire life. Or when you turn on like cochlear implants and a toddler finally hears their mother's voice for the first time, they're like, look at all the colors I can see. Listen to all the sounds I can hear. Check out the moments of life that make me come alive. When you have self-awareness, you can actually tailor your strengths, your personality, your day, your everything to your goals. When you don't, you're disconnected from that, and it's really, really hard. So you've got to have self-awareness. Ingredient number 23, you need a review. You need a review. I did a whole episode about the importance of a good review a few weeks ago. You should go check out that episode. You have to touch your goal constantly. Review points will include first of the month, once a week, quarterly, etc. A goal is a living thing, not something you put in place once and then benefit from all year. You have to review it, and often more than you think you need to. And when you review, you learn new ideas about the goal. You're able to shift directions. You're able to be flexible. You're able to be deliberate about what's next. But you don't get to do any of those things unless you review. So you need a review. It's an important ingredient. The last one, ingredient number 24, are systems. You need systems for your goal. I define a system as a win repeater. A system is a win repeater. It helps you repeat the wins that you're getting. And this is about efficiency. You're able to do more and add new things when you systemize the work you're doing. And systems can be super small. Like they don't have to be massive. They don't have to be complicated. I'll give you a really easy system I use. I unpack my suitcase after a business trip as soon as I get home. As soon as I get home. For years, I put it in our bedroom and it would just sit there for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Have you ever done that? Is there anything more depressing than a half open, like stuff's coming out of it, like dirty laundry suitcase from an old trip? It's the worst. So I decided, okay, my system, I'm going to use the momentum of coming home. Like when I come home, I got momentum. I'm walking in the door. I'm going to hang up my suit. I'm going to empty my bag. I'm going to move stuff around. I'm going to put the toiletries back in the bathroom. It only takes like 6 or 7 minutes if I use the momentum. But if I allow it to sit there, as I said last episode, no moss. I don't want moss to grow on my goal. It gets stuck. Another system related to travel. So I use Parking Spot, which is an off-airport, like airport parking company. They're not a sponsor, but if they want to slide in those DMs, feel free, Parking Spot. But I use Parking Spot, and the way it works is they give you a little tag. You give them your car, you give them a little tag, they drive you in a shuttle to the airport, and then when you land, you call them and go, hey, I just landed. My number is 48789. That's from your ticket. And then they pick you up in the shuttle, and they have your car ready for you. So for years, I would try to hang on to that ticket. Like I would keep that ticket. I would, on a Monday, be handed a ticket. And then on Monday, I'd go to Las Vegas. And then on Wednesday, I'd go to Salt Lake City. And then I'd come home 4 days later, and I would hope I could find that ticket. And it just wasn't a good system because I'd lose the ticket. I'd lose the ticket in the chaos of the trip. So now what I do, when I check in, when I go into the lobby and say, hey, here are my keys, and they give me the ticket, I take a photo of the ticket in the lobby. Before I've left that moment, I already have a photo of it. So then when I land, all I do is open up the photo and go, hey, and I call, and I've got it right there. I don't have to keep up with it. I can lose it the second they hand me the piece of paper, as long as I've taken the photo. It's a small system, but it helps me win. I never have to look for that ticket again. And if I travel 50 times a year, that's 50 things I don't have to worry about. So systems don't have to be massive. They help you repeat your win. That's the final ingredient, systems. And it concludes our massive 24 ingredient list. So I'll recap today. So here's the ones we talked about today. Fun. You got to have fun. Accountability. You need people holding you accountable. Resilience. It's not going to always go well. You're going to need some resilience. Bravery. Fear only bothers you when you're doing cool stuff. Guess what? If you do cool stuff, fear is going to get loud. You better be brave. Mindset. Your mindset matters. Your thoughts turn into your actions. Your actions turn into your results. Hours. You need hours to throw at a goal if you want it to work. Focus. You got to be able to focus on something for a sustained period of time. Patience. The results are going to take longer than you want. Results come at their own pace, not yours. Planning. I look at it on a weekly basis. Weekly. How am I planning this week? Self-awareness. You can't accomplish goals without some self-awareness. A review. The only way to know you're headed in the right direction is to actively review your goals. And the last one, systems. Systems are win repeaters. Those are 13 through 24. You can listen to the last episode for the first 12. How'd you do? Did you have 50% of them? Maybe you have 50% with your goal. Amazing. You're so much further ahead than most people. Did you have 10%, 20%, 100%? Let me know in a review. Like if you want to write a review about this episode, drop that in there. Say, hey, I just listened to the episode. I would listen to the ingredients, the 2 episodes, and I went 9 for 24, or I went 20 for 24. Let me know. And if you want a successful goal, the more of those you add to your life, the easier it is to actually accomplish the goal. The easier it is to actually finish the goal. And I'll actually spend the rest of this year on this podcast talking about those ideas. We're going to talk a lot about those ideas, specific things you can do. Why are we going to talk about them? Because I want you to have wildly successful goals. I do. And if you want to, too, subscribe to this podcast. Oh, see what I did there? I want you to have wildly successful goals. If you want wildly successful goals, subscribe to this podcast. Oh, full circle. Fantastic. Good conclusion. Thank you for listening today. We'll put all the links in the show notes as always. And thank you for reviewing my podcast. Here's one from T-War, T_WARE. that I loved. T-War said, this podcast is a great dose of positivity. I listen while I walk my dog in the morning. Love that. And this podcast gives me great ideas and insights on improving virtually every area of my life while still being light and relatively fun. I'll take that relatively fun. I'll take that. I think I'm trying to get to wildly fun, but I'll accept relatively right now. Definitely not a slog. Love that. Upbeat host and guests. I especially like the detailed notes that allow you to purchase some of the books that interest you that are mentioned in the episode, so you don't have to try to write them down or rewind to find it. Awesome. We'll keep doing that, T-Ware. I appreciate you saying that. There will always be lots of books we talk about in these episodes. Thank you for writing that. Please make sure you subscribe or follow so that you don't ever miss another episode. I'll see you next Monday. And remember, all it takes is a goal.
Thanks for listening. To learn more about the All It Takes Is a Goal podcast and to get access to today's show notes and exclusive content from Jon Acuff, visit acuff.me/podcast. Thanks again for joining us. Be sure to tune in next week for another episode of the All It Takes Is a Goal podcast.